So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. My name's Mark Barber. I'm the Partnerships Manager at Venture Simulations, SimVenture, here in the UK. And I'm joined this morning by Peter Harrington, our CEO, and Keris Goodwin. And live from Harare in Zimbabwe, I'm delighted to have Mlungisi Velempini, the principal of Oakwood in Harare, and we got Jasper Nyaunga, who is a business teacher at the school. Today we're going to be in discussion with Jasper and Vels, if I may call you that, on the impact of SimVenture's evolution platform on the teaching of business in Oakwood Academy in Zimbabwe. There'll be plenty of time at the end for questions, so please do post those in the chat and we'll do our best to get to those. The meeting is being recorded, so any questions we don't get to, I will pick up afterwards. But firstly, can I introduce, please, Peter Harrington, who will kick the webinar off.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Kind of just as a backdrop, a bit of philosophy. This is now 20 years since we first started, and this business is rooted in the belief that business can be perceived by students as an uninspiring, even boring subject. Yet we know it can be both highly engaging and exciting, and also studying business helps people to get jobs. And at SimVenture, we believe in bringing business to life and allowing students to be at the heart of their learning. And that means allowing them to, rather than be passive recipients of information, they can be active, making decisions, exploring, practicing, and ultimately that means making mistakes, but critically, making mistakes authentically, because authentic practice provides an invaluable context, really, that shines a light on complex theory which may be difficult to understand. And when we can help people to understand things through practice, so they become more motivated and more engaged as students. And that's very much at the heart of what we do. And designing digital technology like evolution that's going to be discussed today, that also allows educators to save time by being able to monitor what students are doing and be able to walk around and see what students are doing and be at the point of need when needed, rather than just standing at the front and sharing information. This is our philosophy. It's a fundamental change in the way in which we're able to teach. And it's, to be honest with you, it's all driven by the fact that I was a student at university who had a teacher who sat at the back. He kind of was the computer, but he sat at the back and he let us bring class to life. And I had no problem gathering 150 people to celebrate his retirement, because they were so grateful for the way he taught them, because they all went on to get a whole range of fantastic jobs, and they had skills way beyond other people at university when they left. Anyway, a note for you. I really hope you enjoy this webinar. Look forward to your feedback. Please get involved. But for now, I'll hand you back to Mark. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter. Okay, I've had the benefit of spending many years working with Cambridge International in Southern Africa, and particularly Zimbabwe. Oakwood Academy was one of the first schools to adopt evolution to support its teaching of business and related subjects. So, Vels and Jasper, I just think it would help other people on this call from other countries to give a very quick overview of the curriculum you offer.
Thank you, Mark and Peter. It's good to be here and good to see everybody getting together to learn a little bit more about evolution. Oakwood is a school which started in 2020. The Oakwood concept started a few years before that, and that was to build a school where every decision which was made was informed by evidence. So we are an evidence-led school. So we believe very strongly in evidence-led approaches to teaching and learning. We offer the Cambridge curriculum in high school. So for 13-year-olds to 18-year-olds, we follow the Cambridge IGCSE, international qualification, and then we progress through to AS and then to A level, offering quite a broad subject set to give our learners, by the time that they leave us at the end of A level, real options at university. So we do the commercials, we do the sciences, we do the humanities and languages and arts. So that's what we've done. We've been doing that since 2020, and it's been pretty successful. Our focus on evidence-led approaches naturally leads us to be more open to any interventions, including technology, which evidence has shown improve teaching and learning and improve outcomes. So it wasn't very far from our reach when we learned about SimVenture and evolution for us to take an interest in it, seeing what it could obviously do, what the potential that it had inside the classroom when applied in business courses.
Thanks, Al. So, Jasper, if we move into your classroom now, when you were teaching business before you came across evolution, what were the challenges? What were the problems you were facing in trying to get key concepts over to your students?
Okay, Mark, I'll be very honest. Before I started to use evolution SimVenture, the challenges which I would have was my learners would be familiar with the basic knowledge, the fundamental concepts which we learn in business studies. And the challenge was always on applying the concepts. So we would try out case studies, we would try out writing essays, and sometimes a number of times they will still not get it right. And SimVenture has given them this opportunity where now they have to try out these concepts on a virtual platform, and they're able to rewind and get to see how these basic concepts work. And even to mention more attention, we have those quiet learners who may struggle to pay attention during lesson. So attention was not always 100%, not to mention engagement. But with SimVenture, everything changed, and my class was brought to life.
Great. So obviously, evolution is essentially gamification in learning, and the belief is, of course, that younger learners are going to be more adept to technologies, perhaps, than more established teachers. How did you overcome that in the classroom, where they're naturals at using technology, and perhaps you were less so? Did that was that a factor you had to overcome?
I would say that when we started to use SimVenture, it allowed learners to create a safe environment where they were able to experiment and try out these business concepts. They will be able to formulate a strategy, and then when they implement the strategy, they'll be able to see the possible outcomes without being judged in the classroom. So whenever they will write their essays, they were able now to see that these are all the possible outcomes which I have, without getting to, officially do them without trying out on the platform.
Okay.
It's an interesting thing.
Yep.
So it's an interesting thing, Mark, which I first bumped into integrating technology into a school, like a girls' school, about a decade and a half ago, where as teachers, we have to overcome quite a bit more in order to fully understand many packages. And what you find is that when you give young people access to those same packages, the learning curve is much shorter for them. So they're able to jump in, and it's more natural for them. And I think that that's a similar experience that we've had with SimVenture's evolution, where for teachers to understand it and fully implement it actually takes more time than for the young people to do that. Because for them, I think the gamification is natural. They've done it their whole lives. We might not have. So they get on top of it very quickly, and they get into it quicker than we do.
Yeah. So you've now been using evolution for a best part of 2 years, I think. What impact over that? I mean, it's a short period of time, but what impact have you seen, either of you, from bringing evolution in?
From a school level, Mark, the impact has been that our business learners are more engaged. And we feel that evolution gives them the opportunity to truly understand how variables in a business can affect outcomes. An analogy is often used with evolution of having a flight simulator within the classroom. And I know from being involved in business, Oakwood Education, which Oakwood Academy is part of, we're a for-profit school. So when we created Oakwood, we had to make the business case. Now, we live that from day to day in running an organization. But for 17-year-olds to understand the link between marketing and outcomes, the link between research and development and trying new things and outcomes is really, really difficult. So as an organization, I think when I look at our business class, they've got a tool which allows them to do that, which is quite important. Because when you take concepts and they are less abstract, and you have learners engage with them from day to day in a more real way, their retention is clearly going to be better. But beyond just their retention, and we think that we had a positive impact on results from using evolution. When we look at our A-level results last year, when we think of those same young people after school, when they go on to post-school study and then they go into the workplace, having a more intimate understanding of the concepts in business is huge. It's huge in terms of their effectiveness in study and in the workplace, and also their achievement when they go to university.
Thank you. So Jasper, obviously in any classroom, you're going to have differentiation of learners. You're going to have those that are going to be stronger at business and weaker at business. You're going to have those that are naturally more confident and about public speaking, for instance. What impact did you see from evolution in learners who might have been the quiet one at the back? Did you see any impact in confidence or the oracy skills?
Definitely, Mark. I'll start with collaboration in the classrooms. Learners will be able to work in small groups, and now they are no longer passive receivers of information. And now they're involved in applying these concepts in a visual environment. So I would say they were able to work in small groups and they were able to contribute. And it created a safe environment for them to make mistake, for them to be able to know what works, what doesn't work. And it builds their analysis skills in terms of knowing what happens next. And they will be able to see all the possible outcomes. And most importantly, we have the quality of leadership, because they are their own boss. And in this visual Kanban, they tend to make decisions in marketing, in human resource management, and they will also learn how to manage their cash flows.
Yeah. So what we would term, particularly in the Cambridge world, is that concept of active learning. So learning is actively happening when you're taken out of your safety zone. Peter, I'd like to bring you in here because you've obviously, we've done quite a lot of research with SimVenture over the years about active decision making. Could you add anything to that?
Yeah, I've spoken with now probably thousands of students who use evolution at universities, and often I'm asked to go in and listen to their feedback. And you have got literally lecture halls full of 200, 300, 400 people, and the experience that Jasper talks about and Vels talks about shines through from the way these people talk, who often as well post stuff on social media about their experience without being asked to do it. But I think the critical thing is how the brain works. And what we know from all the research with things that the impact on social media, and you just need to read things like the molecule of more, or the work by Velempini on dopamine. And because of social media, young people especially are becoming much more impatient, and their ability to concentrate, and I'm sure the teachers here know this, their ability to concentrate in class when purely recipients of passive information, because that is so alien to them now, is their ability is reduced. So we have a different brain that we're dealing with, and therefore trying just to ask people to remember is increasingly difficult. So by actually allowing them to become the active agents within the learning process, suddenly we're switching them on to the way that they're now learning socially. And we're able to get information to the limbic system within the brain, where they become excited, they become worried, they become concerned and anxious. But these emotions, they don't realize they're learning, but they are. And it's amazing when you hear the feedback, because people speak emotionally about what they've just done. They don't talk about the analysis and the numbers. They talk about, oh my goodness, when I came to run the quarter, I knew this and this was in place, but this wasn't working. Just the tone of their voice, if I was a teacher, would excite me. Never mind how much they're learning. And of course, I think the great thing is that listening to Jasper is the problem we have is that we don't know what the false assumptions our learners have in their heads. They have to show themselves. And if we're just giving them information, it never shows themselves until they get the wrong result in the exam. But by allowing them to talk about what's happening, and they can show probably their false assumptions, we can help correct it. You know, for example, why am I not making more money here? I thought I had everything right. Okay, well, let's have a look at it. And they're completely tuned into what they're doing, and we can help them in the moment. And I think it's just such an exciting way to learn. But the critical thing here, and evolution, we put so much energy into this, it has to be authentic. We can't teach the monopoly. Monopoly isn't the truth. So, you know, we've got to give them stuff which is really about the foundations for critical life skills.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Peter. I mean, Vels, Jasper, any comments on that?
I think Peter puts it very, very well. That when the learners click the button and run the next quarter, the anxiety which arrives, because it takes a little bit of time to see what the result of the changes they've made are, that is where the learning takes place. If you layer on top of that the collaboration which would have happened before you run that next quarter, and the conversations which are happening amongst that team, you get even more learning taking place. And this is the big, beautiful thing about tools like this within the classroom. Yeah. So I think, Peter, you put it very, very well. What we would like to do at Oakwood going forward, and I know that SimVenture as an organization, you've organized these things before, but we haven't been at the right place to take part, is get involved in competitions with other schools to spread that collaboration outside of the group of lower sixes or the group of upper sixes who are in a business class, because that would multiply the learning, giving more opportunities for our young people to interact with other young people who've, you know, got different ideas, had different experiences, and add to that excitement. And by so doing, add to the learning. So yeah, thanks for putting it that way, Peter.
Peter, do you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, it's a pleasure. I think I was at Loughborough University on Tuesday afternoon with 40 enterprise students who were about to do a year of setting up their own business, and they were using another one of our platforms. But one of the critical messages, and I say this so regularly, is within that classroom of 40 people from all over the world, there is so much more knowledge. But the reason people don't talk to each other so much now is that, you know, it's because we don't talk and we fear rejection, and we don't necessarily have the social skills people had 20, 30 years ago because of technology, etc. But this is where technology, and particularly in this case, has such a valuable role to play, because you're right, is that we want people to use the technology to find common ground, to find the friends and the people that they can talk to and get on with. And if that might be in the classroom as a team, that's fantastic because they share the experience. But also, you're right, we do run these competitions all over the world, and it would encourage everybody involved here today to explore this, because if we can have a school from India working or competing against a school from Mexico and Zimbabwe, there are the fundamental foundations of something much bigger later. And if anything we need to do in this world is to bring people together, rather than help us tear each other apart.
Yep, that's a good point. Thank you, Peter. Let's just move back a little bit. So Oakwood was one of the first of 3 schools we had globally to adopt evolution. So you really were at the front, having worked with the higher education space, particularly for many years, as Peter mentions. Moving into schools was a new thing. Jasper Vels, when you presented this to parents as a new way of teaching, Zimbabwe still ranks, I think, amongst the highest in Africa for educational outcomes. Educational standards are extremely strong and always have been. How did parents react to you using technologies such as this in the classroom to teach business when, they've always been, from my mind, very output exam result focused?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the question. Initially, it was very new, the technology, integrating technology in the classroom in business class. We usually expect practicals to be in science subjects, and we were very excited to try out the new opportunity as pioneers. Most of the time, we would make arrangements to visit firms, organizations, and present some of what goes on in organization. How do they manage money? We will try to look for an expert to explain to our learners. With this opportunity which was given to our learners to be able to start to explore, to get to see what happens next without visiting any places, I think it was a good starting point in terms of saving time, and they will get immediate response without visiting any new places. So parents were very supportive. Even the community was very supportive in terms of seeing us trying the new way of learning, which was bring business studies to be learned differently. So I think it was reshaping and building new way of learning business studies. And I can safely say that nowadays I'm a facilitator. I would simply explain a concept to my learners, and the next thing is it sparks curiosity that they would want to see how the new concept is going to affect their decisions. Recently, we've been learning about capacity utilization, and they were excited to see how different production levels would affect their decision. And it has really become a part of our lesson of learning, that every time when we want to do an activity in the classroom, then they'll simply go on SimVenture. And now it's part of us.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Jasper. So we talked a lot about the learners and learner outcomes and how learners engage with the process. You mentioned there as a teacher, you're now a facilitator. How has evolution made teaching easier for you? We talk a lot about the learner, but obviously we want to make teaching easier and give you more time to plan rather than do the actual chalk and talk teaching, which of course schools are moving away from.
Okay, Mark. My favorite part is, even from home, I can see what my learners are doing. If I log in and I go on the control tower and check how many hours have they been using the platform and how many pages have they opened. Some of my learners are on marketing. Some of my learners probably they are focusing on managing finance, or probably they are learning about cash flows. I'll be able to know that my learners are able to stay engaged even after the classroom. So there's that continuous learning which takes place even after we leave the classroom. And I'm very excited to see my learners that they are loving it.
That's great. That's great. You're using it for business at the moment, and of course this is first and foremost a business and entrepreneurial tool. But you've mentioned there, Vels, a lot of cross-curricular skills coming out there for confidence and engagement. Now, these, of course, can be moving into other subjects. How would you see evolution could be used in other subjects? And is it your intention as a school to look elsewhere as well?
Yes. But before I get to that, Mark, something's just entered my mind as Jasper was speaking about parents and you were asking about parents. In Zimbabwe, we are quite an entrepreneurial society. And I think it's got to do with our economic history. And so most families have something entrepreneurial which is going on, even if they're professional families. They might have a farm, or they might be involved in some trading or some kind of entrepreneurial exercise. And I would bet that there are conversations which are happening across the dinner table which involve evolution and parents. So discussions about if it's capacity utilization, right now, that parents would be inputting into, and I'd love to actually find out from our lower sixes and upper sixes if this is something that they've done, or put the seed in by asking parents, have you asked your child about how they're doing on evolution? And you're a marketing executive, maybe you could give them some advice and have them looking over their children's shoulders and looking at what they're doing. That'd be quite exciting. Yes. But coming back to your question, in terms of evolution, currently we are only using it in business. That's the Cambridge AS and A-level business courses. We have evaluated the feasibility of having an economics class, and that's something that we are continuing to talk about in Oakwood. If we've got the numbers, we would want to do it. We've had some interest in the past from learners who would want to do combinations like accounting, economics, and mathematics, for example. So we'll see what that works out as in 2027. But we've got a new project in terms of our curriculum offering at Oakwood, which is to offer alternative pathways, and we're going to start off with the ATHE level 3 business qualification from 2027, which will allow learners who have completed their IGCSE to then join a class working towards the level 3 qualification in business, which is a school leaving qualification. You can think of it as equivalent to A level. The beauty of that program is that it's asynchronous, so learners can progress at their own pace, and it's all based on portfolios of evidence, so you don't have any high stakes exams. So we can see there will be learners who will benefit from this. And we think that evolution will sit very well in that program, to introduce it right at the beginning, because the learners in the class will be working at their own pace. That ATHE level 3 qualification in business lends itself to a more collaborative approach throughout the class. From day one, you don't have a teacher, but you've got a facilitator who guides. So we want, if we get the numbers for this class, we want to set them off on evolution right from the beginning, and then have them use it throughout their course. If they should progress to level 4 of that ATHE business qualification, which roughly speaking is about in first year university level, and it's possible for them to do that within the school system, they would continue to use evolution. So it would be this tool, this flight simulator, that they'd use as their skills increased, and they'd be using that to work alongside their course. So we're almost certain that come January 2027, we'll be using evolution in our business class. If we've got an economics class, then we'll use it there as well, and we'll be using it in the alternative pathway ATHE level 3 qualifications.
Fantastic. Well, you wouldn't know, but we partner with ATHE for delivery of SimVenture products, both Evolution and Validate, which is an ideation platform to support their business management courses, which, as you've mentioned, have progression arrangements into top-ups with UK universities, again, many of whom we already work as well. So it's a nice top-down model, that now meeting in the middle. So it's good to see it's been absorbed by more organisations. You mentioned that Zimbabweans are good at problem solving. I think that's to put it very mildly. In the UK at the minute, we've got sweltering 32 degrees, and basically the country's almost closed down. And I know Zimbabweans laugh when we talk about things like that. But problem solving is a real skill, isn't it? And the ability to think outside the box when there is no plan B often. Let's just take that back into the classroom, Jasper, for you. In terms of problem solving skills, Zimbabweans, I think, are naturally very good at it. But has evolution drawn that out in any additional ways, would you say?
Okay, Mark. I'll take you back to the subject itself. We tend to teach 4 skills in class. We tend to teach, most importantly, how to evaluate, to make decisions, and we also teach them to analyze. And these are the 2 most difficult skills to teach in the classroom. You try months and months, and sometimes it can take us up to 3 months for the skill to embed. And with the introduction of SimVenture in our classroom, I can safely say that the learners now, they can figure out critically and think what happens next, because they get an opportunity that if they change a strategy, then they implement the strategy, they see the outcomes, then they rewind to see the impact of the decision which they would have made. And that's refining the skill which is needed for them to be ready for their finals. I wouldn't say ready for the exams only, but I would say to be ready even in real life, where they have to become entrepreneurs and they take up these leadership positions. So they have to have the analytical skill and the skill for them being able to evaluate and make decisions. And SimVenture is really supported with that. Within a short space of time, learners are getting responses, the learning the impact of the decision which they make. So I would safely say that SimVenture has really helped us in classroom in terms of helping learners quickly learn how to analyze and to make decisions.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, we're drawing to a close, and before I move on to just final thoughts from both of you, if there's any questions, please would you post them into the chat or raise your hand, and whilst we've got everyone on the call, we can answer those. There's also, of course, from this, we would be very happy to offer you a demonstration of evolution and then let you have some evaluation accounts so you can try these concepts for yourself under no obligation whatsoever. In terms of any messages to teachers who have joined this call, and we'll be looking at this webinar offline later on, what are your messages to them and your final thoughts on using evolution?
I think for teachers, it's very important that when you're introduced to evolution, that you just take the time to become confident and proficient. And it doesn't take a lot of time because the support is great, it's sufficient. But sometimes, and I'm saying this from having talked to other teachers about evolution, it can seem a little bit intimidating to learn how the program works, to become confident around the interface, but simply committing 2 or 3 hours at the beginning so that when you introduce it to the young people in your class, you feel confident enough and you feel proficient enough. That makes all the difference in that first little bit. And like I said earlier on, once the young people have it in their hands, they tend to just run away, and they'll end up teaching you. But it's really worth making that time in the beginning to build up your own confidence and just working through those webinars and the examples which are given by the team when you're onboarded.
Thank you. Jasper, before I come to you just with final words there, Peter, did you want to come in there?
Okay, Mark. I would like to see that the favorite part of using evolution SimVenture is learners, they tend to choose their own key performance indicators. I would safely say that they can choose sales revenue to measure their progress. They can choose the profit. They can choose how to manage their cash, how much they have in the bank account can be a measure of success. Before they can borrow, they will need to know their gearing ratio. And all this is being provided to them to think about that before they start to make any decisions. And what has been really good for my class is some learners would choose to say, I want to measure my success using profit. And after some time, they will choose another key performance indicator. So the good starting point is when you choose to start to make decision in an established business. You also get an opportunity to start your business from scratch. You give it a name, then you buy assets, then you're starting to make those decisions. So a good starting point would to start with an established business if we are ever to use SimVenture.
So in the growth scenarios, so you've got the benefit of having data there for the evaluation analysis. We've also got the learning process, the execution, and then the reflection of what happened and why it happened. And of course, that is, the 101 of learning, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah, just one very final quick point. Thank you, Mark. I think it was something Jasper said, which reminded me of Sir Ken Robinson in 2010 at Long Beach on his TED Talk, when he talked about in education how we are hypnotized by the past. And, when we're trying to solve future problems, we go back to what we've done before. And he was basically saying sort of the doctrines of the past are insufficient to meet the challenges of the future. The reason for bringing that up is because I think there are all kinds of reasons in education, because it is so difficult to actually sometimes move forward and create change. It's so difficult to be that change maker in an organization. And it's for that reason you might be hearing some great things about evolution, but we really, really do empathize with you, and we do our level best to make any kind of switch shift as easy as possible, because it is so much easier to always do what you always have done, particularly when you're time poor, resource poor, etc. But I think it comes back to what I said at the beginning. There's a genuine belief that there's a better way of doing things, which are very much focused primarily on the student, but also on the teacher.
Thank you, Peter. The idea of this discussion was not to show you how it works, because it's rather like flying an aeroplane or driving a car. The inputs will determine the outputs, and it is not something you can win or lose. It is a learning tool, as I hope that Jasper and Vels have demonstrated today. Okay, well, Jasper and Vels, unless there's anything more from you, thank you ever so much for your time this morning at a very busy time of the academic year, I know. And thank you all very much for joining. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your days.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.